The massive observation vessel hung silently in the dark space beyond Mars, its crystalline hull designed to bend light around its surface. For 3 centuries, the Etherian Scientific Council had maintained their watch over the blue planet called Earth, meticulously documenting the slow progression of its dominant species. Today marked another routine observation, or so they thought. Senior observer Kylax stretched his iridescent wings as he reviewed the latest data streams. His species had been tasked with monitoring humanity's developments since they first detected primitive radio signals emanating from Earth. The Etherians prided themselves on their methodical approach to studying emerging civilizations, and their reports helped determine when a species was ready for first contact. Another solar cycle, another report of minimal progress. Kylax muttered to his assistant, Ven. These humans still rely on chemical rockets and fossil fuels. At this rate, they won't achieve faster than light travel for another millennium. Ven's attention remained fixed on her monitoring station, her antennae twitching in an unusual pattern. Senior observer, I'm detecting anomalous energy readings from the lunar dark side. Kylax fluttered over to her station, his crystalline eyes focusing on the data stream. Impossible. Our sensors sweep that region daily. There's nothing but abandoned human equipment and dust. The readings are clear, sir. Something is generating massive power fluctuations beneath the lunar surface. Ven's fingers danced across the holographic controls, bringing up detailed scans. These energy signatures, they're unlike anything in our database. Before Kylax could respond, alarms blared throughout the observation vessel. The lunar surface was changing. Massive sections of the moon's dark side began to shift and separate, revealing what had been hidden beneath the regolith for decades. Rising from the depths of the lunar crust, a vast complex of structures emerged: shipyards, defense platforms, and dozens of vessels unlike anything the Etherians had ever seen. The ships were dark, their hulls seeming to absorb both light and sensor scans. They moved with an impossible grace, defying known physics as they accelerated without visible propulsion. Leading the fleet was a vessel that dwarfed even the largest known ships in the galaxy. Its hull bore the markings of Earth's nations, and its name was written in simple human script: Nightshade. By the first light, Kylax whispered, his wings trembling. How did we miss this? How long have they been building down there? The answer came not in words but in actions. The human fleet moved with practiced precision, taking up defensive positions around Earth and its moon. Their deployment patterns spoke of years of preparation and planning. These were not the actions of a species just learning to reach for the stars. This was the carefully choreographed emergence of a power that had chosen the moment of its revelation. Ven's voice shook as she reported, Sir, we're receiving a transmission. It's being broadcast on all known frequencies in perfect galactic standard. The message was simple but carried weight that would shake the foundations of galactic society. To all observing species, we see you. We have always seen you. The time of watching from the shadows is over. Humanity is ready to take its place among the stars. Kylax knew in that moment that everything was about to change. Centuries of assumptions about humanity's development were crumbling before his eyes. As he rushed to compose an emergency report to the Etherian Council, more ships emerged from hidden bases across Earth's solar system. Each vessel represented technological achievements that should have been impossible for humanity's perceived level of development. The human fleet, this Black Armada as they called it, had changed the game entirely. Their ships incorporated technologies that even the most advanced species in the galaxy were only theorizing about: quantum shielding, dark energy drives, and weapons systems that defied conventional understanding of physics. Humanity had somehow mastered them all in secret. As the Etherian observation vessel retreated to a safer distance, they intercepted communications between the human ships. The conversations were confident, professional, and carried none of the uncertainty expected of a species making its first steps into galactic society. These humans had been preparing for this moment for generations. Send word to every observation post in the sector, Kylax ordered. "The humans haven't just developed faster than we thought. They've been waiting, watching us watch them. And now," he paused, looking at the magnificent display of power before him. "Now they're ready to show the galaxy exactly what humanity is capable of." The implications were staggering. If humanity had managed to hide this level of development from the galaxy's most sophisticated observation networks, what else were they capable of? The question would soon be answered, as the Black Armada began to move beyond the confines of their solar system. Across the galaxy, other observation posts began reporting similar revelations. Hidden human outposts and facilities were revealing themselves throughout the solar system. Each installation demonstrated capabilities that should have been centuries beyond humanity's reach. The species that had been dismissed as primitive had engineered one of the greatest deceptions in galactic history. As Kylax prepared his final report on humanity's emergence, he couldn't help but admire their patience and ingenuity. They had turned the galaxy's assumptions about them into their greatest advantage. Now, as the Black Armada took its place among the stars, one thing was certain: humanity would never again be underestimated. The age of silent observation was over. The time had come for humanity to speak for itself, and the galaxy would have no choice but to listen. News of humanity's emergence spread through the galaxy like a supernova's shockwave. The Kraxan Empire, long considered the dominant military force in the sector, viewed the revelation with particular interest. Their warships were already moving into position before the Etherian report was fully distributed. High Commander Vextar stood on the bridge of the Kraxan dreadnought Imperial Might, his scaled hands clasped behind his back as he watched tactical displays tracking the human fleet's movements. The Kraxans had built their empire through a simple philosophy: subjugate or destroy any emerging civilization before it could become a threat. "These humans think themselves clever," Vextar rumbled to his bridge crew, "building their little fleet in secret. But they lack experience. They've never faced a true empire in combat." He bared his fangs in what passed for a smile among his species. "Let's educate them." The Kraxan battle fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect attack formation. 50 warships arranged in a spear-point configuration that had broken countless civilizations before. Their arrival at the edge of Earth's solar system was meant to shock and awe, to demonstrate the futility of resistance. Instead, they found the Black Armada waiting for them. The human ships hung in space like dark stars, their energy signatures barely registering on Kraxan sensors. The massive Nightshade led the formation, but it was flanked by vessels that seemed to phase in and out of reality itself. The humans had expected this response, had planned for it. "Open communications," Vextar commanded. "Let's give them one chance to submit." The response came not in words but in action. As the Kraxan fleet moved to surround the human forces, the Black Armada executed a maneuver that should have been impossible. Their ships moved in perfect synchronization, forming patterns that seemed to bend space itself. The Kraxan tactical officers watched in confusion as their targeting systems failed to maintain locks on the human vessels. "Impossible," muttered Vextar's second-in-command. "Their formation. It's creating some kind of quantum interference field." Before Vextar could respond, the human ship struck. The Nightshade fired first, not with conventional weapons, but with a beam of pure darkness that seemed to devour light itself. Where it touched Kraxan ships, their shields didn't just fail. They ceased to exist at a quantum level. 3 Kraxan cruisers disappeared in the first volley, their atoms scattered across space in a way that defied physical laws. "Return fire," Vextar roared. "Show them the might of a real empire." The Kraxan fleet unleashed their full arsenal: plasma torpedoes, antimatter beams, and graviton pulses that could shatter planets. The space between the fleets lit up like a newborn galaxy, but when the energy dissipated, the Black Armada remained untouched. Their hulls seemed to absorb the attacks, growing darker with each impact. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Nightshade, her expression calm as she watched the Kraxan assault waste itself against their quantum shields. Humanity had spent generations preparing for this moment, developing defenses that operated on principles the rest of the galaxy hadn't even theorized yet. "Status report," she commanded, her voice steady despite the chaos unfolding around them. "Shields at 98% and recycling absorbed energy," her tactical officer reported. "The Kraxans are trying to adapt their weapons, but they don't understand the basic principles we're operating on. Their attacks are actually making us stronger." Chen nodded. This was exactly how their simulations had predicted the battle would unfold. "Signal the fleet. Execute Pattern Omega. Let's show them what humanity can really do." The Black Armada moved as one, their ships forming new configurations that seemed to twist the fabric of space-time. The Kraxan fleet found their own weapons turning against them, their energy attacks curved back by gravitational lenses that hadn't existed moments before. Human ships phased through solid matter, appearing inside Kraxan shield perimeters and striking with weapons that ignored conventional defenses completely. On the bridge of the Imperial Might, Vextar watched in horror as his fleet was systematically dismantled. Every tactic, every strategy that had served the Kraxan Empire for millennia proved useless against human technology. His ships weren't just being destroyed, they were being taken apart with surgical precision, disabled rather than destroyed where possible. "This is Captain Chen of the Earth vessel Nightshade." A transmission cut through the chaos. "Your fleet is defeated, High Commander. You can retreat with your surviving ships, or you can continue this battle and lose everything. The choice is yours." The offer of mercy was perhaps the greatest shock of all. The Kraxans never showed mercy, and thus never expected it from others. Yet here were these humans, possessing power that could easily destroy the entire Kraxan fleet, offering a chance to withdraw. Vextar felt something he hadn't experienced in his entire military career. Fear, not just of defeat, but of what this new power might mean for the galaxy. The humans hadn't just matched Kraxan military might. They had surpassed it in ways that seemed to break the very laws of physics. "All ships," he commanded, his voice hoarse, "retreat to Imperial space." As the surviving Kraxan ships limped away through hyperspace, the Black Armada resumed its defensive positions around Earth. The battle had lasted less than an hour, but its implications would echo through the galaxy for centuries to come. The message was clear. Humanity would not be conquered, would not be subjugated. They had emerged onto the galactic stage, not as supplicants seeking acceptance, but as equals demanding respect. The age of human submission to alien power was over before it began. In the aftermath of the battle, as debris from Kraxan ships drifted through space, Captain Chen sent a final message to her fleet. "This is only the beginning. The galaxy needs to understand that humanity comes in peace, but we will never come in weakness." The Black Armada had won its first major battle, but the war for humanity's place in the galaxy was just beginning. The Galactic Council chamber on Centauri Prime buzzed with nervous energy as representatives from 100 species debated humanity's sudden rise to power. The defeat of the Kraxan fleet had shattered centuries of established military doctrine and left the galaxy's major powers scrambling to adapt. In the shadows of the chamber, Ambassador Lyra Tavrel of the Syndicate Worlds watched the proceedings with calculated interest. Her species' natural ability to read quantum probability streams had made them powerful players in galactic politics, but even they hadn't foreseen humanity's emergence. "The humans must be contained," thundered the Kraxan representative, his scales still dark with shame from their recent defeat. "If we combine our fleets." A soft laugh cut through the chamber. Admiral James Chen, humanity's first representative to the Galactic Council, stood calmly at the center of the chamber. He shared his daughter Sarah's commanding presence, though his hair had long since turned silver. "Containment?" he asked, his voice carrying easily through the vast space. "You still don't understand. We're not here to be contained. We're here to be recognized." The chamber erupted in argument, but a sudden alert silenced everyone. Emergency broadcasts began streaming in from multiple sectors. A coalition of opportunistic powers, led by the militant Vor Collective, had launched a surprise attack on humanity's first extrasolar colony on Proxima. Admiral Chen's expression didn't change, but his eyes hardened. The attack was a calculated move, an attempt to prove humanity's fleet couldn't protect its territory beyond Earth's immediate vicinity. They were wrong. On Proxima, the colonial defense fleet was already responding. The Black Armada had anticipated such attacks, positioning specialized vessels throughout human space. As Vor warships descended on the colony, they encountered something unprecedented. The human ships defending Proxima weren't just military vessels, they were mobile quantum engineering platforms. As the Vor fleet opened fire, the human ships began altering the fundamental forces of nature in their vicinity. Gravity twisted, time dilated, and space itself seemed to fold according to human designs. Captain Sarah Chen, now commanding the rapid response vessel Stormbreaker, watched the battle unfold from the edge of the system. All ships, execute Protocol Infinity. Show them why humanity doesn't need numbers to win. The defense fleet split into smaller groups, each ship seemingly multiplying as it generated quantum duplicates of itself. The Vor found themselves fighting an enemy that could be everywhere and nowhere, their targeting systems confused by ships that existed in multiple quantum states simultaneously. But the Vor had come prepared. Their fleet was massive, and they were willing to accept heavy losses to prove their point. As the battle raged, they managed to slip several ships through the defense screen. Heavy bombardment began striking the colony shields. Inside the council chamber, Admiral Chen received the reports with growing tension. The colony would hold. Their defensive technology was too advanced to fail, but the political message was clear. Humanity's enemies were willing to target civilians to achieve their goals. Enough. Chen's voice cut through the chamber like a blade. You want to see humanity's true capability? Watch. On his command, a signal pulsed through quantum space. In orbit around Earth, the Nightshade and its escort fleet engaged their quantum drives. What happened next defied conventional physics. The ships didn't just travel through space. They rewrote it. The Black Armada emerged at Proxima instantly, without passing through the intervening space. They hadn't used faster-than-light travel. They had simply chosen to exist at their destination rather than their origin point. It was technology that the galaxy had deemed impossible, yet humanity had mastered it. The battle that followed wasn't just a defeat for the Vor Collective. It was a demonstration of power that changed the galaxy's understanding of what was possible. The Black Armada didn't just fight the Vor fleet. They trapped them in localized fields where the laws of physics themselves could be rewritten. Vor ships found themselves in spaces where time moved differently, where cause followed effect, where the very constants of the universe could be adjusted like parameters in a computer program. It wasn't just advanced technology. It was control over reality itself. As the Vor fleet was systematically disabled, not destroyed, but rendered harmless through technological superiority, Ambassador Tavrel's quantum senses finally understood what they were witnessing. Humanity hadn't just developed advanced technology. They had discovered how to manipulate the fundamental code of the universe. The surviving Vor ships retreated in disarray, leaving behind a graveyard of disabled vessels and shattered pride. But humanity's victory came with its own price. They could no longer maintain the pretense of being just another emerging power. The galaxy had seen what they could do, and fear began to spread. In the council chamber, Admiral Chen faced the assembled representatives. "We didn't want this fight," he declared. "We developed our technology in secret not out of aggression, but because we saw how the galaxy treated emerging civilizations. We chose to wait until we could protect ourselves and others." The chamber was silent as the implications sank in. Humanity hadn't revealed itself to claim territory or demand power. They had emerged to change how the galaxy itself operated. The Black Armada wasn't just a fleet. It was a declaration that the old ways of conquest and subjugation were over. As the session ended, Ambassador Tavrel approached Chen privately. "You've changed everything," she said softly. The galaxy will never be the same. Chen's response was simple. That was always the plan. The price of pride had been paid on both sides. The galaxy's powers had learned that humanity couldn't be bullied or controlled, and humanity had learned that with great power came not just responsibility, but inevitable opposition. The true test would be what came next. Deep in the uncharted regions of the Sagittarius Arm, the nightshade drifted silently through the debris field of a long-dead civilization. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the bridge's observation window, watching as her crews investigated the massive structures that floated like ancient bones in the void. Another precursor site, she murmured, studying the geometric patterns etched into fragments of dark metal. But this one's different. Dr. Marcus Rivera, the fleet's lead synorchaeologist, nodded as he manipulated a holographic display of their findings. The energy signatures are identical to our quantum core technology. Captain, I think we found it. The source of our advancement. For generations, humanity had carried a secret even greater than their hidden fleet. Their quantum technology hadn't been entirely of their own creation. They had found something, buried deep beneath the lunar surface during the first moon landings, a single artifact that had changed everything. The bridge crew watched as Dr. Rivera's display showed the comparison. The patterns in the ancient debris matched exactly with the crystalline structure they'd discovered on the moon nearly a century ago. But where that single artifact had revolutionized human understanding of physics, this site contained an entire library of similar technology. "Ma'am," the sensor officer called out, "we're detecting multiple ships entering the system. Recognition patterns identify them as the Architect Collective." Chen's expression tightened. The Architects were among the oldest known species in the galaxy, and they had been suspiciously quiet since humanity's emergence. Their arrival now couldn't be coincidence. The Architect vessels were beautiful in their complexity, looking more like floating cities than traditional ships. As they approached, they transmitted a single message: "We know what you found. We know what you are." Before Chen could respond, the ship's quantum core pulsed with unexpected energy. The ancient debris field began to react, patterns of light flowing through the dead metal like awakening circuits. The Architects hadn't come to fight. They'd come to witness. All those years watching Earth, the Architect transmission continued. "We weren't studying an emerging civilization. We were waiting for you to remember." On the bridge of the Nightshade, screens filled with data as the ancient site activated fully. The information poured in faster than their systems could process it, but certain patterns became clear. The precursors hadn't gone extinct. They had transformed themselves, seeding their consciousness into the genetic code of promising species across the galaxy. Humanity wasn't just another civilization discovering advanced technology. They were the heirs to the precursors' legacy, carrying within their very DNA the capacity to understand and control the quantum nature of reality. "That's why our technology works the way it does," Dr. Rivera breathed, his eyes wide as he processed the implications. "We didn't just find their artifacts. We're encoded with the intuitive understanding of how to use them." But with this revelation came a new threat. Multiple hostile fleets dropped out of hyperspace, the combined forces of every power that feared what humanity might become. The Kraxans, the Vor, and a dozen other species had formed an alliance of desperation. They must have followed the Architects. Chen's tactical officer reported, reading over 300 capital ships charging weapons. Chen smiled grimly. "They still don't understand. Signal the fleet. Initiate the Lazarus Protocol." Throughout the debris field, previously invisible human ships began to phase into normal space. The Black Armada had arrived in force, but they weren't alone. The Architect vessels moved to join them, their ancient technology harmonizing perfectly with human quantum systems. "Your fear is misplaced," the Architects broadcast to the hostile fleet. "Humanity is not your enemy. They are the guardians we have waited millennia for." The space around the debris field began to warp and shift as both human and Architect ships activated their quantum cores in synchronization. The combined fleet wasn't just preparing for battle. They were rewriting the local laws of physics to make combat impossible. The enemy fleet found their weapons refusing to function, their ships held in place by forces they couldn't comprehend. This wasn't just advanced technology at work. It was the fundamental power of the universe being guided by consciousness that had evolved specifically to control it. "You can still join us," Chen transmitted to the hostile fleet. "The precursors didn't leave us their legacy to conquer the galaxy, but to protect it, to guide it towards something greater." On the bridge of the Nightshade, the ancient Dibris continued to transmit its message. Humanity's quest for understanding had never been random. Every scientific breakthrough, every technological advancement had been guided by the echoes of knowledge buried in their genes. The Black Armada had been built not just as a defense force, but as the first step toward awakening humanity's true purpose. They were meant to be guardians, not conquerors, protectors of a galaxy that was far more mysterious and interconnected than anyone had imagined. As the hostile fleet struggled to comprehend their situation, the debris field began to reconstruct itself. Ancient technology, dormant for millions of years, stirred to life under the combined influence of human and architect quantum fields. The galaxy was about to change again. And this time, there would be no hiding from the truth. The echo of the past had become a call to the future, and humanity's role in the galaxy was finally becoming clear. The reconstructed precursor station hung in space like a jewel of impossible geometry, its quantum crystalline structures reflecting light in ways that defied conventional physics. Within its central chamber, representatives from every major galactic civilization gathered to witness something unprecedented: the formal recognition of humanity's role as inheritors of the precursor legacy. Admiral James Chen, now acting as humanity's primary diplomat, stood before the assembled species. The past month had seen a complete transformation in galactic politics. The failed attack on the precursor site had led to a cascade of revelations that no civilization could ignore. "We never wanted dominion over the galaxy," Chen began, his voice carrying through the chamber's perfect acoustics. "What we wanted, what we've always wanted, was understanding." The architect representatives, their energy forms shimming with approval, projected images of Earth's history into the chamber. Every major human breakthrough, every leap in understanding, had been guided by the dormant precursor knowledge within their genetic code. But unlike other species the precursors had seeded, humanity had done something unique. They had waited, learned, and prepared. Captain Sarah Chen watched from her position near the Nightshade's quantum core interface. The ship, like all of the Black Armada, was being transformed by their growing understanding of precursor technology. The vessels were becoming more than ships. They were evolving into conscious entities, partnered with their human crews in ways that transcended traditional boundaries between organic and artificial intelligence. "The galaxy stands at a crossroads," Admiral Chen continued. "The precursors didn't choose humanity because we were superior. They chose us because we understand something fundamental about existence: the power of unity in diversity." The chamber's quantum field rippled as he spoke, responding to the truth in his words. The Black Armada had never been meant to conquer. It was designed to protect, to preserve, to guide. Every ship, every technological breakthrough, had been built with this purpose in mind. Ambassador Tuvrel of the Syndicate Worlds rose to speak. "The quantum probability streams are clear. Humanity's emergence was inevitable, not as our conquerors, but as our guardians. The question now is, how do we move forward together?" The answer came from an unexpected source. The hostile fleet that had attacked the precursor site had been contained, but not destroyed. Their leaders, now understanding the true scope of what they had witnessed, requested permission to address the gathering. The former Kraxan High Commander Vextar, his scales now bearing the marks of wisdom rather than aggression, stepped forward. "We attacked out of fear," he admitted. "Fear of change, fear of losing our place in the galaxy. But what humanity offers isn't displacement, it's advancement." The chamber's quantum field surged as ancient precursor technology responded to this moment of understanding. Holographic displays showed the possibilities. A galaxy united not under any single species rule, but through shared knowledge and purpose. The Black Armada was being transformed from a military force into something far more significant. Each ship would become a center of learning, a repository of both human and precursor knowledge, freely shared with any civilization ready to understand it. The legacy of the stars isn't about power. Sarah Chen spoke, her voice carrying the weight of someone who had seen both war and wonder. It's about potential. Every species in this galaxy carries within them the capacity for greatness. Our role isn't to rule, it's to help that potential flourish. As if in response to her words, the precursor station began to pulse with new energy. The quantum field expanded, touching every being in the chamber. In that moment, they all shared a vision of what could be. A galaxy where advancement wasn't measured in military might, but in understanding and cooperation. The Black Armada would remain, but its purpose was forever change. The ships that had once hidden in darkness now shone as beacons of knowledge. Their quantum cores resonated with the combined wisdom of humanity and the precursors, offering insights that could transform civilizations. "We stand here not as conquerors or subjects," Admiral Chen concluded, "but as partners in the greatest journey our galaxy has ever known. The age of isolation is over. The legacy of the stars belongs to all of us." Throughout the galaxy, the news spread. Human ships, once feared for their power, became known as harbingers of change and growth. The technology that had been developed in secret was now being shared, carefully and responsibly, with civilizations ready to understand it. The architects, who had watched and waited for so long, began working openly with humanity to awaken similar potential in other species. The precursor legacy wasn't meant for humans alone. They were simply the first to fully understand its purpose. On the bridge of the Nightshade, Sarah Chen watched as the first students from 100 different species began their training in quantum physics and universal harmony. The ship that had once been the flagship of Earth's hidden fleet was now a university of the stars. The legacy of humanity's rise would be written not in battles won or empires built, but in knowledge shared and understanding achieved. The Black Armada had emerged from shadow into light, transforming from a weapon of war into a tool of enlightenment. As the precursor station pulsed with the combined potential of a united galaxy, the truth became clear. Humanity's greatest achievement wasn't in keeping their power hidden, or in revealing it to the galaxy. It was in showing that true strength lies not in the ability to destroy or dominate, but in the wisdom to guide and protect. The stars themselves seemed to shine brighter as the galaxy entered a new age, one where the combined legacy of humanity and the precursors would light the way toward a future of unlimited potential.